Hi, this is Mike with 4 on 6 Music. So for today's lesson, what I wanted to talk about is improvising. And we're going to use the song Autumn Leaves in order to demonstrate improvising. So with Autumn Leaves, we're in the key of G normally for this song, and we have a couple of 2/5 phrases in the key of G. So we have A minor, D7, going to G major. We also have a 2-5-1 for E minor, the relative minor, F sharp minor 7 flat 5, B, sometimes B7 flat 9, and then go into E minor. So, I mean, if you really wanted to make your solos just simple, straightforward, you didn't really know what you were doing for this song, this is your first time improvising, my suggestion would be to take the E minor scale and use that as the basis for your solo. So if we have the E minor, that would be the relative minor of G major, which is the key of the song. And we do have, like I said, the 2-5-1 in E minor, so it definitely works for that. And even for the 2-5-1 in G major, A minor, D7, G major, the E minor scale would still work because it's sharing all the same notes that those chords are playing. So let me demonstrate how that would sound if I use E minor just for a little solo on Autumn Leaves. So I was just using the E minor scale for that whole section. That would be the head, the A section of the head. So I'm just using the E minor scale for that, and it works. But if you want to go a step further, which is generally what you're going to see with a lot of people playing jazz, is you would take chord tones, you would use arpeggios, you would use modes. So rather than using the E minor, you would use the A Dorian for the A minor 7, D Mixolydian for the D7, and then G major, or G Ionian, for the G major chord. So you can do that. You can also use, like I said, arpeggios, A minor, D7, G major, and then C major as well. So you could use arpeggios as well to base your solo off of. Of course, with that, you don't want to jump around too much. You want, unless you're playing a pretty out there solo like something that Eric Dolphy would play. But if you're just going from one chord to the next and you're using arpeggios, let's say for that A minor to D7, that 2-5, I might just start with our A, C, G. So I'm playing that A minor 7 arpeggio, all the notes in that, and then I go down to the F sharp because that's the third of our D7 chord. So that shows when I'm playing that next chord is the D7, because again it's getting that third for the D7 chord, that F sharp. So let's say I use the arpeggios to base my solo off of. Maybe I'll use arpeggios, some different modes as well, such as the Dorian, Mixolydian, and such. This is how that solo would sound. And as I play this, I want you to think about how this sounds different from the solo that I based it. The solo in which I based it on E minor. Man, can barely speak today. All right. So for most of that solo, I was, well, pretty much all of it, I was basing it off of the arpeggios for each of the chord changes, and then the modes, the different scales that go along with those chords. And then if you notice at the end, I threw in a little pentatonic riff. When I first started playing jazz, I was always so concerned with playing the modes that that would work in the song, trying to get all the arpeggios, and concern myself with that I actually would kind of neglect incorporating the pentatonic scale in my solos. And one time I was playing in a concert in my college days. My professor watched it. He complimented my playing, but then he told me that I should incorporate a little bit more bluesier sounding licks and such into my solos, and they got me thinking, like, why is it that I neglected the pentatonic scale so much as I was learning jazz and really trying to get used to these chord changes and soloing in a way that the listener can hear the chord changes in my playing. So yeah, now I definitely start to incorporate pentatonic scale a lot more in my soloing for jazz, but I mean, in most of my soloing, I tend to incorporate that scale just because it's so versatile and you can do a lot with it, right? But that will be for another video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. For private lessons, both at home in the Oneida, Syracuse, New York area, or online, please book with me. I have the form in the description box, so all you have to do is fill it out and send it, and I'll get back to you within 24 hours. Shouldn't be any more than that. All right, you guys have a good day.